Welcome to Only Football Week
Blech.
10 edition. I'm Kyle and that's Rick.
I'm
Today we're
Rick.
going to
That's
be
Kyle.
go no. Today we're going to be going over all of our predictions for Week 10 including Thursday night football tomorrow. We're going to talk about the MVP race, some controversy about who is the number one. Controversy if you stand with me, probably not if you're with Rick. And then we're going to talk about some things we learned about the the NFL in Week 9. Some teams starting to separate themselves from the bunch. So Week 9 in the books. Week 10 starts off with another kind of stale Thursday night football game that no one's really looking forward to.
Yeah.
I got to
It.
say really quick though, I
Yeah.
think that I think they're purposely putting the games that no one would watch on Thursday night football to try to to try to squeeze the most juice out of them. Because if this game was playing at the same time as like Buffalo and Kansas City, no one's gonna watch it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I guess the only way to get some money out of the game is to play it completely by itself. Am I
Yeah.
wrong? You know?
No, dude. I feel the same way because it's like we have to make Thursday night football exciting, but we have such a shitty lineup that it's like we put them under the spotlights and we're like expecting them to perform, right? Like we've complained about Thursday night football pretty much this entire year, and there's been like two or three, maybe three games, right, that have been exciting. So I
Yeah.
agree, man. This Falcons at Panthers game is going to be a rough watch, and I don't know like how I feel about it because the Panthers got absolutely romped by the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals are a much better team, and they just got killed. And the Panthers, to I guess to give them credit, PJ Walker was starting. Baker Mayfield came in after basically that swap happened earlier this year. So DJ Moore's still there. He's still a playmaking wide receiver. But what Baker are you going to get in this game? Are you going to get Cleveland year two Baker, or are you going to get Carolina Panthers Baker? Like what's going to happen with him? How's he going to perform? And you've got the Falcons, who are a much more exciting team with Mariota and Cordero Patterson and Kyle Pitts, right? They're in an offense, and their defense is actually really solid. And I think this is going to be easily. I mean, I'm taking the Falcons in this one. I don't trust the Panthers at home. I don't trust the Panthers, period.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was going to say the same thing because Cincinnati, we said, is a much better team, but even Cincinnati's really up and down.
Yeah.
And it seems like they play they play really well against the teams they're supposed to, but then they don't really show up. I mean, losing to Cleveland the way they did. Um, the Panthers, there's nothing to really believe in it. It's a total gamble. Like if you wanted
Yeah.
to find a game to just gamble on, this kind of feels like that game.
Prop bets or something.
Yeah, like this is a game that you probably can't feel too good about either one of these teams winning, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, yeah, maybe the Panthers could squeak it out, but the Falcons seem like the best team under 500 in the NFL. I'm going to go with the Falcons. They've given me more to go off of, but yeah, this game does feel like a coin toss. But it's a game I think that the Falcons will win unless Baker Mayfield, like you said, what Baker are we going to get? If Baker, being benched early, maybe it provides him some kind of spark. Baker plays his
Yeah.
best football when the odds are against him, and when he is written off, he doesn't write back like Geno. So maybe he comes back for the Carolina Panthers and provides a spark and doesn't write back. But
Yeah.
until we see a little more of that, I'm going to go with the Falcons as well. Speaking of Geno Smith not writing back, that kind of carries us over into a really interesting game with a Seattle. See, this is a good game. Now, this should
Yeah.
have been the Thursday night game. All right.
Yeah.
This is a Geno Smith Seahawks team that's riding pretty high right now. It's 6-3, and you have Tampa Bay coming off a really strong win against. I'm not going to say really strong win, but it was a fourth quarter last minute drive, right?
It was an important win.
It was an important win and it was an emotional win because Tom
Yeah.
Brady, 100,000 yards. We talked about it on our last episodes, and it just feels like if you're Tampa, you have to go 500 here, right? You can't let yourself become 4-6. Um, you have to find a way to crawl back to 500 because you have Tom Brady. I mean, we expect that. We
Yep.
expect Tom Brady to find a way to get back to 500. But meanwhile, the Seahawks are playing very impressively. And I have no reason to go for the Buccaneers because of the way they've been playing up to this point. But for that Tom Brady 500 reason alone, I'm going to take Tampa Bay to win by 3 at home.
Yeah, I have to agree, right? Like, don't get me wrong. The Seahawks aren't just some team to kind of just be like, yeah, they're just the Seahawks, right? Like, we'll talk about them a little bit later, but the Bucks coming off that emotional win, like we said, an important win. If we have the Falcons winning, the Bucks are looking at this game, tonight and being like, okay, if we want to continue to, or at least if we want to continue getting to the playoffs, we have to get this division because we're not going to make it in a wild card. So if the Falcons win, then they're really like, okay, if we're at the top right now, we beat the Falcons. If we win, we've got the tiebreaker with them, which I think is probably their only competition, maybe the Saints, right? So Tom Brady and the entire Bucks team is looking at this and being like, we just came off an emotional win. We need to get the division, and let's play against a Seahawks team that's coming to Tampa. Now, Geno Smith, right? Little bit of more Pete Carroll, a little bit of the controversy with the wristband. He had a couple comments earlier where Pete Carroll said, Geno is wearing the wristband with the plays and it's kind of moving this offense a little bit. He's like,
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he said there was a little pushback before, more than likely referring to Russ not wearing a wristband in the games. He's like, and I think that's what's moving this offense a little bit. So they have that going for them. They have Kenneth Walker III going for them. They have DK Metcalf and God, I always forget his name. The other wide receiver they have, Tyler Lockett going for them, right? And Geno Smith is really, really good this year. He is really good this year. Like let's not look at the past, right? Let's not look at what he's done. He is really, really good this year. But I think coming into Tampa, again, with all the things we've already said about Tampa, I'm also going with the Bucks. They're going to want, Tom Brady is going to want the stranglehold on the NFC South. And if the Falcons win on Thursday, he's going to want it a little bit more. And nothing is more dangerous than, facing Tom Brady when he wants something that bad. I mean, look at Giselle, right? Like, look what happened when he wanted to play football another year. So yeah. I'm also taking the Bucks in this one to win.
Well, and I was just about to say that this might be the first time that you and I both agree on an underdog. It doesn't happen very often, but
yeah, I
just looked up at the odds, and Tampa's actually a 3-point favorite at home. Not sure if I agree with that, but I mean, look, as much as I can say, I'm not sure if I agree with that. You and I both just picked the Bucks, right?
So, yeah, that's true. That's true.
You can't be like, oh, what are they doing in Vegas? That doesn't make sense. I mean, look, this just shows you how much faith that the people that put millions of dollars on these games have in Tom Brady to find a way to win this game. Is it fair? I don't know. The Seahawks seem like they deserve to be a favorite in this game at this point in the season, but
yeah, even as the away team.
Yeah, even as the away team, it seems like they've earned it. But yeah, Seahawks are going to have to keep grinding out those underdog wins, and maybe eventually they'll get recognized later. Our next game is my game of the week, which Rick normally has a game of the week. I'm stealing it. I'm stealing it this week. We didn't talk about this prior. This is totally off the cuff. I saw this game.
What a jerk.
Yeah, I know. I saw this game and I said, how could it not be? You have a chance for the NFC North champions, in my opinion, the Minnesota Vikings, right? You have a chance to have a statement win against the Buffalo Bills, who even after a Jets loss, there's many people that still believe this is the best team in the NFL. Yep. And there is stats or statistics to prove that. And there's a compelling argument for it. And look, the best team in the NFL doesn't mean they don't lose and matchups are weird and yada, yada, yada. You can make a lot of excuses, but will the Bills lose 2 games in a row? Now, that is a key question that you have to answer. Now, if the Bills had won last week, I would say the Vikings had a better shot at this game. But the Bills coming off a loss, trying to rebound at home, The Vikings seem like, man, they're dancing with the Commanders. It just feels like they're kind of due for a loss around this time
Yeah.
of the year. As
Yeah.
much as I love the Vikings, I got to go with the Bills in this game. Even though if the Vikings won, I would think it is very impressive. I don't see it happening.
And I agree, right? Like, I still think this Bills team is, like just a complete team. They're very good. What I'm worried about is two things. The way Josh Allen was pretty reckless with the ball against the Jets, throwing 2 picks. He was the offense for the Bills that game. He rushed for 2 scores, and that was kind of it, right? I think they had a field goal after that. Also, he is day-to-day right now with, I believe, an arm, a hand injury, elbow. There we go. So he's day-to-day right now. Questionable for the game. Who knows? Josh Allen is a tough guy. Don't get me wrong. And I fully expect him to start the game, but you got a backup in Case Keenum who, he did some things in Minnesota. I don't know, Minneapolis Miracle. Have you ever heard of it? Right. And again, the defense for the Bills is really, really good. The Vikings, on the other hand, they're 7-1. They, like you said, I feel like they are due for a loss. I can't see them coming into Buffalo and taking a win. I can't. So I'm taking the Bills, but don't get me wrong. I think this is going to be a close game, especially if Josh Allen doesn't start, because then at that point, yes, you still have the weapons with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs for Case Keenum to throw to, but I think they're really going to rely heavily on Singletary to run the ball, to be the rushing part of that offense, which is usually on Josh Allen's shoulders. But because if he doesn't start, they're going to rely more on him, maybe open the pass game a little bit, hopefully with Stephon Diggs. But it's going to be a close game, I think, no matter what, because you might not get Josh Allen running the ball, taking those hits like he usually does when he is playing injured. And we did have a question from our Instagram as well. Should the Bills rest Josh Allen if he's not 100% this weekend? Kyle, what do you think for this question?
I'm going to say yes, a definitive yes. And like I talked about, or like you just spoke about, you got Case Keenum, right? And last year, Case Keenum played for Cleveland, and I got to see him up and close because Baker was injured, and the Broncos were playing them on Thursday night. Case Keenum, and before that season, he played for the Broncos for an entire season, and that was the year after the Minneapolis Miracle. Case Keenum is probably the best backup in the NFL right now. I think Case Keenum could lead this team to win against the Vikings. I really do. I really believe that. And I think the ultimate goal, if you're Buffalo, is to win a Super Bowl, right? And anything that can compromise that final goal needs to be discussed. Is a Week 10 victory over the Vikings more significant than causing further injury to an elbow, aggravating it? Now it's like we're resting him for 3 games. You start losing the bye week. I mean, I think that if it comes down to Josh Allen, I mean, he's got to be honest about it. How bad is it? If it's tennis elbow, right? Maybe you just have a less restrictive game plan, no like deep shots to Stephon Diggs, maybe keep it short, try to run the game. That's what I think will happen. I think he will play, but you may not see as many deep shots, and you may see them trying to cater to that elbow a little bit. But yeah, Case Keenum, if it comes down to it, I mean, you got to have all the faith in the world that he can go out there and perform. And real quick, there's a funny video of Case Keenum dressing up as a fan going to the Bill. Have you seen
getting
that
autographs? No, but I know a lot of backup quarterbacks have done that in the past, where they dress up as a fan and they try to get like, Josh Allen, can you sign this hat or something?
Yeah.
Aren't you? What are you doing?
Yeah. That's a hilarious video. But yeah, Case Keenum, very good at football, good at acting. Hope that answers your question. Do you agree with that, Rick?
Yeah, and thank you to Johnny P from Instagram giving us that question. I don't know. See, here's where I'm torn, right? Because the Bills are 6-2 right now. The only thing separating them is that extra loss that the Jets have at 6-3. from them taking over the division, and even the Dolphins, right? The Dolphins are 6-3. And if Tua didn't get hurt, we'd be talking a completely different story probably right now, right? We'd be talking like the Dolphins are leading the East. But, that didn't happen, obviously. So let's talk about what's going on now. I do agree with you that if they sit him and they have Case Keenum out there, the defense will understand the assignment. They're going to be like, we have to shut down Justin Jefferson. We have to shut down Dalvin Cook, and Kirk Cousins will Kirk Cousins away this game in a sense, right? Like, he's done really well this year. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's about that time where Kirk Cousins does Kirk Cousins a game away. So why not do it now? And like you said, why not do it now instead of possibly having that injury linger into a postseason run that, like you said, needs to end with a Super Bowl championship? So I would agree. You should sit him this weekend, 100%. Let Case Keenum go in there, do what a backup is supposed to do, and manage the game and get the dub and go from there. So yes, they should absolutely rest him. It's just, I think Josh Allen is such a competitor and sees that record, the division standings right now, and he's like, I don't want the Jets to win. So
yeah, totally agree with that. And Sportsbook actually has Buffalo at -190 to win the game. So +160 for Minnesota. So if you actually do have an inkling that there may be no Josh Allen in that game, maybe throw a little side bet at that. Our next game is my Wizard of Oz game. We got
Wizard of Oz game.
We got everything besides Tigers, but we got Lions and Bears.
I love it. I fucking love that.
A 1:00 showdown at Soldier Field. Justin Fields just jumped Tom Brady on the top, whatever the list is. It ranks all the quarterbacks from 1 to 32 of qualified quarterbacks. I think they have to play at least 3 games or something. But the point is, Josh Allen has really, in just 3 games, you talk about sports being
Justin Fields,
a victim of the moment, right? We're a victim of the moment right now. Justin Fields is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And the
100%.
Bears are a complete winner. And you go to week 3 and we were like, hopefully we'll find out, right? Now it feels like we know, and we're only 3 games after. I'll let you take the lead on this. This is your team. You know way more about it. But from an outsider looking in, you got to feel pretty confident that the Bears are going to find a way to win this game and keep that good vibes going in Chicago.
Yeah, I do. And especially because the Lions have really, really sucked it up as of recently. Like, yes, they beat the Green Bay Packers. They only put up 15 points, though. And, far removed from what their offense was earlier in the season. This defense for the Bears is still suspect. It's still not great. Justin Jones definitely showed out as far as rushing the quarterback against Tua, and they still have some weapons there on the defensive side. Their secondary is probably the best part of the defense, and even that is struggling, right? But we have talked about it since we started this show. Offense is what's winning games in the NFL today, and the Bears have got an offense going. You mentioned Justin Fields. I think he entered number 10 in the top 10 QBs as of week 9.
Wow.
And yeah. And he's
real quick. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. What he's been doing the last 3 weeks is crazy. It's Lamar Jackson like. It's Michael Vick like, right? Like, he broke the rushing record for a quarterback. He should absolutely be recognized the way he's being recognized. He was NFC Player of the Week too for the offense. So he's absolutely should be recognized, and I agree with it.
So do you think that this list is more like week to week, or do you think it's like overall? Like, if you were starting a football team tomorrow, Justin Herbert's ranked at 11. Who would you rather have, Herbert or Justin Fields?
I was going to say, because I think this does fluctuate week to week. It's not necessarily like it is the offseason right now when you have one quarterback to start with. You're going to go with a Justin Fields over Herbert? No, because their body of work shows that's not a smart decision, right? But if you told me week 10, we are shuffling up the quarterbacks and you have the number 1 pick for a quarterback, who do you want to start? Yeah, I would start Justin Fields over Herbert right now for what he's done over the last few weeks, right? So, again, I agree with the list, and it definitely is a week-to-week fluctuating thing.
Yeah.
But what he's done with, like, involving Cole Kmet, the addition of Chase Claypool has actually helped Darnell Mooney look a little bit better as well. And he still got Dante Pettis, there kind of in the slot receiver, number 3, number 4. N'Keal Harry's still there. Like, he is involving a lot more people. He's seeing the field a lot better, and he's making throws on the run, making throws in the pocket that makes sense. That when we were talking about, week 3, I was like, this guy, it's just he's not improving. Whatever happened after that Thursday night football game against the Commanders, it just completely flipped. A switch flipped for him, and he's like, and Getsy, don't get me wrong, Getsy and Eberflus has a lot to do with this too, because they have luckily formed the offense around Justin's abilities. So after that game, they probably took a step back. They're like, okay, mini bye week, we suck. What is going on with the offense? They came back on Monday Night Football, put up 33 points against the Patriots, and then it's just been great since then. So give him the flowers. He definitely deserves the recognition. And yes, taking the Bears over the Lions at home for sure.
Yeah, obviously the 602 rushing yards probably is what the thing that jumps out. The 10 touchdowns and the 6 picks, not so sexy. One I don't understand is number 8. 2 ahead of Fields is Dak Prescott with 3 touchdown passes, 2 picks, 45 rushing. I mean, it just if I had to start a game tomorrow, I would take on Dallas. Could you imagine putting Justin Fields in that Dallas system?
Oh man, that'd be insane.
I mean, why is Dak ranked at 8? I just feel like he's consistently overrated. But not to just go down a quarterback rant here, but we brought it up. It is interesting though, because we're talking about who's the best quarterbacks in the league, right? That's how I look at the rankings. And so if Joe Burrow has a really good week, does he go to 1? It's just I don't understand it. You got Geno Smith at 6, and I know he's in the top 5 or whatever in like every major stat. But if you were starting a team right now, is that who you would want over, some other guys? It's interesting. I mean, but I agree. You got to give him the flowers. He's been playing really good, and I think he's going to continue to play well against a Detroit team that's been really vulnerable on the defensive side of the ball, giving up a ton of points. Do you expect this to be a high-scoring game? Detroit's found themselves in a lot of those.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's gonna. I don't want to just like jinx it or anything. I think the Bears are going to score 30 points again. I really think the Bears are going to score 30 points again because the defense for the Lions is so bad. Yeah, knock on wood, right? So I hope it's a very high-scoring game for the Bears. But the Lions, I really hope they just kind of continue to suck the way they have on the offense and make this defense look a little bit better and maybe a little more inspired going into the following week.
Fair enough. Our next game is a game that shouldn't be close, in my opinion. There's always a couple, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any way that the Jaguars can go into Arrowhead and keep this within reach? Right? No, we're just glamorizing it. No. Yeah, we tried. We're trying.
Sorry, Jags fans. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, did they go? They won last week, right? They beat the Oakland Raiders in a game that they were down in early, right? And then they I gotta say, I'm more impressed when teams find themselves down like 17-0 and they find a way to stick together, because that's kind of like I've said it a million times in this podcast. You can lose games, you can't lose locker rooms. Mm-hmm. And a really easy way to tell if you've lost the locker room is to see how the team fights when they're down. I did like to see that out of the Jaguars. And I don't know if it's as much as the Jaguars sticking together and just grinding or the Raiders not being able to close. That's a whole nother discussion. But this Chiefs team, they're the real deal. We're going to talk about MVP stuff later, but I don't think that this could be a upset here. The Chiefs did lose to the Colts. It's worth mentioning, right? Yeah. But that was an away game, a home game, Arrowhead. After Sunday Night Football, are they going to be tired? They went into overtime, but they're not traveling. It wasn't Monday night. It was Sunday night. I just don't think you can find enough reasons to go with anybody but the Chiefs by +10.
Yeah, and I agree. Like the Jaguars, they have, again, Etienne is doing really well, and that's what they were hoping for Etienne, right? But the Jaguars, they came back against the Raiders, but the Raiders have had 3 games this year, I think, where they've been up big and have just given away the lead. So it's almost expected for the Raiders to do that. So for the Jaguars to do it, was it impressive? Absolutely, as a football team for sure, but it's almost expected for that to happen against the Raiders, and they did it. The Chiefs are just dominant, man. It was a close game against the Titans, but the Titans have Derrick Henry, and their defense on the Titans side was doing really well against Patrick Mahomes in the run game. They essentially shut the run game down for the Chiefs. So the Chiefs again at home, I don't think they get anywhere. I don't think it's anywhere near close to a game as it was against the Titans. Like you said, plus 10 Chiefs. I'll take that all day. I'm taking the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, and you got the entire AFC West playing the AFC South. Last week, the Chiefs played the Titans. This week, they're playing the Jaguars. Broncos, before the bye week, played the Jags. This week, they play the Titans. So a lot of similar matchups in the AFC West in the last couple of weeks. Moving on, we got a really hot team, and a team I was actually talking to my father. For those of you that don't know, I'm actually in Miami right now. My brother's getting married this weekend. So so I'm in the 305. If you know, you know.
Mr. 305.
I was just talking to my dad about football, and he was saying that if the Dolphins are a Super Bowl favorite, right? And I don't know how much I believe him, but I told him that if Cincinnati could do it last year, the Dolphins could do it this year. And I truly do believe that. And he made a point that who knows what Miami would be at this point if Tua never got hurt. And I told him that's exactly what you've been saying, right? And they did have kind of a stale win. And then last week, it seemed like they got into their groove. And now they have kind of a chance here to have another tune-up game against a really vulnerable Browns team that when the season started, we thought if they could just try to flirt around with 500 and get Deshaun Watson back week 13, this is kind of a game they have to win, right? So they're 3-5. They got 2 more games or 3 more games until they get Deshaun Watson back. You're 2 games under 500 right now. So you got to win 2 of your next 3 if you want to get Deshaun Watson back at a 500 team. With all that said, Dolphins at home. I'm going to go with the Dolphins, but I'm going to tell you something. I don't think that it's going to be – I think this game is going to be close. I really do. I think Nick Chubb is going to run the ball. I think he's going to run it well. I think Kareem Hunt's going to get involved. I think you're going to see that Browns team. I believe they were on a bye last week, and the last time we saw this team, they embarrassed the Cincinnati Bengals. I know that 3-5 is nothing to write home about, but this team is going to come into Miami frisky. And the reason they want to get to 500 when they get Deshaun Watson. What do you think?
That's honestly, that's great. Them being frisky. So when they get Deshaun Watson back, they actually give them like, hey, we're actually somewhat in the hunt where we can get there if you play really well. What I will say though, is this Dolphins team has struggled against the run. And you saw that against the Bears, obviously again, Justin Fields is a dynamic playmaker, a Lamar Jackson-like type of quarterback now. And they struggled heavily against him, and I think even the running backs for the Bears. So when you mentioned Nick Chubb on the Brown side, yes, they should utilize Nick Chubb for their advantage in that sense, right? Because the Dolphins defense isn't amazing. What they do have now is Bradley Chubb. They got a Chubb on each side here. I walked right into that one. Oh, and that one too. But Chubb is going to disrupt Brissett 100%. They're gonna. If I'm the Browns, I'm gonna try the pass game absolutely. But if I'm seeing that Brissett's having a tough time against a playmaker like Chubb, then I'm gonna use my Chubb to try to get all these to get this game going somewhere to make it close.
Can you get a Chubb going?
I can get a Chubb going all day.
That's all that matters. There's nothing worse than a useless Chubb.
Oh God, Chubbs on both sides. I love it.
This is going to be a really funny time to tell you I have to go to the bathroom, and it has nothing to do with the Chubb stuff.
That's such a lie.
I do have to go to the bathroom, but just keep rolling with it, all right? I'll be right back.
I will.
On the other side of that door.
Chubbs all around. So can I see the Dolphins or I'm sorry, can I see the Browns getting close this game? Probably not. I don't think so. I really think the Dolphins are going to use this as a tune, like you said, like a tune-up game to just show out again. Tyreek Hill, um, Jalen Waddle, all these guys, and we're gonna welcome on Eric here. Eric, what up? What up? What up? What up?
What's up? What's up? What's up? We just finished wrapping up the show, so
Love
just
it.
wanted to say hi.
What's up? We got Kyle. We got Kyle in the bathroom right now, so I'm kind of talking to the void. I'm glad you're here. You actually made a perfect entrance.
Nice. Look at that.
I know, right? You
Talk
know
about
it.
a perfect segue.
Right? So we're talking Browns and Dolphins right now. Kyle thinks that the Browns coming into Miami are going to make it a close game. I was kind of talking about if they get the running game going, because the Dolphins have struggled against the run. Obviously, we saw the game last week against the Bears, right? They can get something going, make it close, but I don't think this Dolphins defense is going to really let up against a one-dimensional team if they can get to Jacoby Brissett and essentially shut them down. The Dolphins, what I was saying was, I think Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, all these guys are just going to get it going again. And, Tyreek Hill is going to just show that he's going to get 2,000 yards by the end of the year. So I don't know what your thoughts on. Do you think the Browns make it closer? Or is, the Dolphins at home, is this kind of just like a win in the bag?
So here's the thing about, and it's in Miami, right?
Yep.
What's up, Eric?
What's up, Kyle? So you guys got to remember that any opposing team that goes into Miami in that sun, no matter what time of year it is, I know it's November we're talking about, but we're talking about it's going to be bright, it's going to be sunny, it's going to be hot, it's going to be 82 degrees. That does take into factor. Now, it's a one-dimensional team, like you guys, like Rick just said, the running game, and we know that the Dolphins struggle. But hell, man, we just saw what the Dolphins can do with that speed, not only with just Jalen Waddle, but with Tyreek Hill and everything else. Now, it's going to be a close but not close game, if that makes any sense, right? I think the Dolphins probably edges out a little bit on the Browns in this one, because no matter what, they could pound the ball all they want, they could pound the game, everything else, they're still going to be under that sun, and that sun hits them directly all 4 quarters. That does make a difference in against any opposing team heading down to Miami while they're in the shade.
Personally, I got to tell you, I'm in Miami right now. I'm actually outside, and with the hurricane around, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it's as hot as it usually is. If you catch my drift, it should probably be like a high of 80, but with the humidity, it may be a factor. But I don't think that this is like when Buffalo played Miami and you could see they were like, gasping for air. This is it's cooled down here, and you can always tell when it's happened here, because it's like one day you just go outside and you're not dying, and it's still hot. I mean, Cleveland, right? You got a Midwest team that's used to the cold. Maybe they're gonna not handle it really well, but I don't think it's gonna be a huge factor. And I only mention that because I'm standing outside right now. So I'd be wrong not to say something.
Yeah, man, you're standing outside right now where it's like about to be 11 o'clock at night in the nighttime. So it's kind of like,
That's how they do it down in Florida.
Talk to me when we have this podcast, like around 3 p.m. your time.
I'll hit you up with a text, me sweating my ass off.
All right, next game up. Kyle, you're taking the Dolphins, right?
Yeah, I'm taking the Dolphins. It's going to be a close game.
Same. Eric, I'm assuming you're taking the Dolphins as well.
Dolphins by 10.
All right. Next game up, we've got the Texans. I like that. Yeah, we've got the Texans visiting New York, going up against the Giants. The Texans, whatever, they are what they are. The Giants, coming off a bye week, I feel like are going to come in and continue doing what they're doing with Saquon and just running their offense the way they've been doing it and winning games at whatever, say Eric, whatever kind of clip they've been winning it. They've kind of won some surprising ones here and there. So, I mean, I don't know. I think the Giants are going to benefit from this bye week and come out and start winning games. Kyle, I don't know. I've got the Giants in this one, especially at home, especially after a bye week. Saquon is feeling way better, and he's the MVP on the Giants right now. So what do you think?
Yeah, I got the Giants. I do like how tough the Texans played Philly in the
Mhm.
first half, but and the Giants just coming off a 14-point loss to Seattle. It's kind of like the stock went up for the Texans and the stock went down for the Giants. But with that said, I still got to go with the Giants to win this game. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be totally shocked if the this is kind of on my upset alert, but I'm not confident enough to pick the Texans. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on it.
All right. So we both got the Giants. Look, check this out, Kyle. We have agreed on every single matchup so far. We have
won't.
not gone. Yeah, I don't think we'll end with it, but so far so good. Yeah, I like the Texans, how tough they played the Eagles as well. But again, just all the things I said about the Giants, the bye week, Saquon, the defense, they're just gonna come. They're at home. It's gonna probably be, you saying an upset alert. I think it's gonna be like Dolphins Browns. The Dolphins are gonna beat the Browns pretty handily. I think the Giants are gonna beat the Texans pretty handily too.
So you don't have the Dolphins and Browns close. You and Eric both have +10.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, just because
Okay.
I was saying, like, I don't think, with the Browns, just to touch on it real quick, last thing on that, if the Browns become one-dimensional, where the defense on the Dolphin side can get to Jacoby Brissett and effectively shut down the passing game, they're not gonna beat them with just Nick Chubb. I don't think they'll beat them with just Nick Chubb. So that's kind of my
Okay.
thoughts on the Browns and Dolphins.
That's
Next
cool.
game.
Yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna
Sorry.
say, it's like, even though we agree on the games, not necessarily agree on the way the games are going to play out. So that's at least
Exactly.
we have something to keep an eye on, keep it interesting.
Exactly. Next game up, we have got the Saints visiting Steel City, going up against the Steelers.
I know who you
Saints.
got.
You think you do, but you don't. The Saints coming off did they win? Did they win last week? I forget.
No, they lost. It was Monday Night Football.
That's what it was. They lost against the Ravens, and they just didn't look good. Andy Dalton did not look really that great in that game. Their offense looked a little bit on the Steelers side. I think, what did they score? Like 12, 14 points or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it was. There was nothing impressive about that game.
Yeah, you watched that entire game, and when sure they're going to Pittsburgh against the Steelers team that has a rookie quarterback, has a rookie wide receiver, just got rid of Chase Claypool. Their offense got somewhat worse, but you still have Pickens and you still have Deontay Johnson there to kind of keep it, I guess, head above water offensively wise. I'm taking the Saints in this one because, as you all know, I can't not pick the Saints anymore after they've just made me look like a fool every time I pick against them.
That's fair. The Saints have been in the past, especially, that's why they stuck with Andy Dalton. I'm going with the Steelers. All right.
Oh, wow.
The Steelers, Mike Tomlin, home game, Saints, bad offensive line. I think I might have heard a bird whisper that TJ Watt may be back. I'm going to verify that right now.
Ooh.
TJ Watt.
That's going to make that defense very scary.
Yeah, I got the Steelers, and I'm very confident in that pick. I'm going to see what the sportsbook has as a favorite. I'd just like to know. I like to gauge my insanity once in a while. And the
I wish I could do the same.
Yeah, the Steelers are not favored to win. I love that. Yeah, I think the Steelers are going to win that game. I'm as confident about that as any other game.
Yeah, no, good point. All right, next game up, my game of the week. We have got the Broncos at the Titans.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Broncos on your game of the week. That's the first.
Game of the week. No, I think it was no, yeah, you're right. It is the first. You're right. Or maybe in week 1 when they went against Seattle. Maybe it was my game of the week. I really can't remember.
Yeah, I got it. I'll have to go back. This is a good game though. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first, and then I'll let you say your piece because this is your team. But the Broncos on the up and up on the offensive side. The Titans came off a pretty uh, tough loss against the Chiefs, right, on Sunday night. The I think I'm taking the Broncos in this one just because I think Russ is finally cooking. At least he's boiling the water. He's getting there step by step. He's almost there in this offense. The defense took a hit with Chubb, right? But I still think the defense is a solid unit, even with the rushers that they do have. We've mentioned many names on here before, especially during some of our live streams. But I think the Broncos going to Tennessee, take one from the Titans, and just kind of like the Chiefs did against Derrick Henry. Will Derrick Henry be effective? Absolutely. But will the Broncos defense kind of make those changes where they need to stop him? I think so. So I got the Broncos going into Tennessee and taking a win here.
Wow. I do too. And I think a lot of it has to do with what I saw from New England, or what I saw from Kansas City last week with the game when they started Malik Willis, and we tried to find his stat line and we couldn't, right?
Yep, that's right.
I wrote down some really interesting stats, and if you're somebody that's game planning for this game, the Tennessee Titans are ranked 32nd. They're dead last in their passing game. The Broncos have lockdown corner Patrick Surtain. The Broncos are going to have to stop the run. That's, I think, Tennessee's 7th in the NFL with rushing yards per game. The game plan for Tennessee is going to be to run the ball, keep the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands. So if the Broncos can stop the run, or at least just minimize the damage, don't let what happened with Josh Jacobs in Week 4 happen. I think we have a good chance in this game. Russell Wilson kind of sent a fiery message in his post-game conference that said we have to have a playoff mentality right now. This is a team that I still believe in, and there's a realistic reason why. You look at their loss against Seattle, right? Probably should have won that game. You saw the Chargers game with the punt returner got thrown into his own guy. They kicked the field goal. Should have probably won that game, right? You had 2 opportunities. They were receiving the ball when that happened. You look at all these losses, the Jets game, the pass interference that on that 4th down, and this Jets team just beat the Bills, right? When you have a defense that's number 1 in the NFL for points allowed per game, there's not a team in the NFL that you will not have a chance against. And that is just the fact. Like, you could have a really great offense and get into shootouts, but I would rather have the number 1 defense because you're not asking the offense to do that much. You're really not. It's just like I said a million times, can we score more than 17 points? After last week, I realized Greg Dulcich, who is a rookie that we drafted, he's brought a spark to this offense that we didn't have, and he's had an early connection with Russell Wilson, getting 6 to 9 targets a game. I'm looking for Greg Dulcich to have a big game. The Broncos coming off a bye week to be fresh. And this isn't going to be an easy game. Tennessee, Mike Vrabel, they're going to be ready. They're going to be playing for their home fans. And you don't want to lose 2 in a row. And that's the truth. If you're Tennessee, you're looking at the number 1 bye, just like they got it last year. So this is a game Tennessee's probably looking at just as serious as Denver, but maybe not as desperate. I just think that this Bronco team is a better football team all around. I don't think the Bradley Chubb loss is going to be too significant with Baron Browning returning, the guy that jumped off the screen when we live casted that Colts game. The dude's got a bend. Randy Gregory's about to come back, and Nick Benito's help. Like, we're good, man. Bradley Chubb, the moment Randy Gregory was signed, was always going to get traded. That was part of the plan. You just waited until the trade deadline to get the max value out of him. So I think that if they could start like we saw against Jacksonville, if they could start playing and just getting that identity of winning close games, I think that this is a team that could have a chance against any team. And I think that they're going to go into Tennessee and just win the game. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I just believe they're going to find a way to do it. It may not be keeping Derrick Henry under 100 yards, but maybe we keep him under 130 and
Just
we find a way to
contain
win.
him.
Because you can't stop him.
No,
You
can't.
can't.
The Chiefs did a good job in the second half on the Sunday Night Football game. Don't get me wrong, but he still went off for like 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was the offense for the Titans.
Yeah.
And sorry, I was going to say, and you mentioned Malik Willis. Is he going to start, or is it going to be Tannehill coming back from injury?
Yeah.
I think either way, they can get to either of them at quarterback, the Broncos defense, and make it the Derrick Henry show, and then refocus their defense on containing Derrick Henry and doing what the Chiefs did last week, and just scoring more points than them. Really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's practicing. Tannehill's practicing in Wednesday's practice. He was listed as limited. I have a feeling that they might just be keeping the cards close to their hands, trying to get the Broncos to practice, because they'll probably take the wide receiver that we had to start in the COVID year, and he'll be the scout team quarterback to play like Malik Willis. And honestly, it's pretty damn accurate. And then on Sunday, Tannehill will probably get the start, and it might fuck with the game plan a little bit, but hopefully the Broncos are already thinking like that. I expect Tannehill to get the start, and I expect Tennessee to not talk about that until Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Well, that's my game of the week. Hopefully the Broncos can come out on top.
Yeah. Hopefully we can post up some updates and some highlights on the Twitter page. Hopefully there's highlights, dude. I'm like, after a bye week, you get kind of like desperate for some highlights.
Yeah. All right. Next game up. This is just me. Like, this is the worst game for me because we have the Colts at the Raiders. Two teams.
I looked at it.
Yeah, two teams that I said I would never pick again, and the NFL said, "Screw you, Rick. You have to pick a winner here." And the Colts just hired Jeff Saturday, got rid of Frank Reich, promoted a guy to be their OC, so Jeff Saturday doesn't have to necessarily be an OC. The Raiders coming off a brutal loss against the Jaguars in a game where Devontae Adams looked like an absolute monster, but Josh McDaniels is just saying, "Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, so I guess I'm coaching." But the Raiders are at home. They have Devontae Adams. They have got much more talent on the offense in terms of like names, because don't get me wrong, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. are good names, but the Raiders just have the more talent, and they're at home. I'm taking the Raiders in this one. Unfortunately, I have to pick somebody. I can't just stay unchosen on this game, and I'm taking the Raiders at home, even though I have zero faith in any of these teams. This is going to be like a 9-6 game. One of the worst afternoon games probably of this slate.
There should be a meme where it's like Josh McDaniels or Jeff Saturday, and the guy's like, "Why are those my only two options?"
Yeah.
We're
going to live stream this game.
You have to pick. Go, Jeff Saturday.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Raiders. I think the Colts. It's funny. You could make an argument that they've already won too many games. Like
honestly,
they've already won too many games for what the overall goal is this year. And I know teams don't tank on purpose, but obviously this team is planning on drafting a quarterback, and the Raiders have their quarterback. So I'm going to go with the team that is supposed to fucking be good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go with the team that's not supposed to be complete dog shit. Like, there's no reason that we're looking at this game. Week 10, mind you, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not even like, oh, this is the quarter mark. They haven't got it together yet. Like, dude, we're literally almost closing in on getting closer to the end of the year, and we're looking at a Colts Raiders game confused. It's despicable, but I'm going to go with sheer talent, right? I think the Raiders are more talented. I know Josh McDaniels' job is quote unquote safe, It's
Yeah.
hard to believe that you can do that bad of a job and be safe. It seems like
Honestly, yes.
at some point, right? At some point, he was safe in week 5, but is he safe in week 7? Okay, he was safe in week 7. Is he safe in week 10? He's going to be our coach for years to come. Let's revisit that in week 14. Like, eventually, right? You can't just be stubborn, right? It doesn't help anybody. You got to be able to bounce off bad mistakes very fast. Good organizations do that. And, Cleveland sticks with their head coach for a decade there. Yeah, it's just, it's a fact. It's a fact. I think the owners just don't like admitting they made a bad choice. They want to force it to work. Jerry Jones with Jason Garrett, but whatever. Yep. I digress. I think that the Raiders should win this game. If it doesn't happen, no one's going to be surprised, right?
No one's going to be like that mad except Raiders fans. So
we're just going to continue to be disbelief. We're just going to continue to be like, how do they do that again? It's almost like impressive at this point.
It really
that
is.
You could have that much talent and lose. It's almost like we're being what's that thing with
we're being punked.
Punked, dude. How did you know I was thinking that? That's awesome. Oh yeah. It's like we're being punked.
And I agree, dude, because they, like I said earlier, they have 3 games where they were up big and lost all 3 at the end. They've only had something like that happen the entire history of the Raiders organization before this season. They've only had that happen like 3 other times. And that was within that span, the entire history of the Raiders. That's when it happened. And to lose 3 in one season, the way they're doing, again, with all the talent, it's just Josh McDaniels going back to his Denver days. And you know him very well. He is just not a good coach. And he's a coordinator. That's all he is. We talked about it, I think, on the last episode.
Yeah.
Some people are meant to be coordinators. Some people are meant to be head coaches. And you see
okay.
the trial and error. But he already went through his trial. And he's still going through errors.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did get the job again based off the premise that he learned from his mistakes, right? And I don't believe in I do believe in second chances, but I feel like we've seen enough at this point. Our next game is I guess the Battle for America's team. This game just looks like America when I look at it. Dude, I know you can't accept it because you're a Bears fan, but you do realize that Green Bay Packer fans are global. Like
they're not.
Oh God, he can't.
No, they're not.
This is called willful ignorance. You don't want to know that. You don't want.
Duh.
Let us know if you think Cowboys Packers just looks like Super Bowl, right? I know they're both NFC, but doesn't it just look sexy?
It looks like an American game because you got cheese and you got Cowboys. That's what makes it American right there. Cheese and Cowboys. That's what makes it American.
The star.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
There's probably going to be a flyover even though they're in a dome. Maybe they'll open it. Oh, wait, no, they're playing in Lambeau. So, all right, enough bullshit. I'm going to go with the Packers to win this game. I think that the Cowboys with Dak Prescott is just not that impressive. I do think that this Cowboys defense is great. Okay. I have to believe that I think the Packers will be lucky to finish the season 500. I do not think that this is a turnaround game for Green Bay. I just think that this is if the Packers are going to lose to bad teams, maybe they will play better against good teams. And I saw that a little bit against Buffalo. They played better against Buffalo than they did against Detroit. And that's the God honest truth if you look at the highlights. So I think the Cowboys 6-2, I think they're due for one too. There's a couple teams that I thought were due for one. And that goes for W's too. I think the combination of Cowboys due for an L, Packers due for a W. The fans need it. Aaron Rodgers needs it. And this is a win that you can get. And he didn't beat Buffalo, right? But you beat a good enough team where you'll get at least some of the monkeys off the back. I got Packers winning at home.
I completely disagree with you. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have lost 3 in a row, I believe now. And that's the first time since Aaron Rodgers' first year as the starter in Green Bay.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the stat I saw. the Cowboys are
I
such
think
a
he
better
lost
team.
4 in a row. I think he lost 4 in a row.
Is it 4? It's 3 or 4, something
They
like
lost
that. Yeah.
in London. They lost to the Jets. They lost to the Bills, and they lost to the Lions. So that's 4 in a row.
Okay, then it's 4 in a row. I can see why you don't think they're going to lose 5. Aaron Rodgers, I get it. But the Cowboys did. They put up almost 50 points against the Bears. They have
Bears.
Dak Prescott back, who, yes, you might think is overrated. But this offense for the Dallas Cowboys is clicking right now. Pollard, even Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. The defense is really good. Micah Parsons, you got Diggs,
No, I
Trayvon
get
Diggs on the
it.
other side.
I get
Dude,
it.
but I don't think there's any way when you have a Packers team that puts up 9 points against the Lions has any chance against a Cowboys team who is just so much better than them. And I've got the
That's fair.
Cowboys winning this one 100%. And I think it's going to be by a large margin, to be honest. I think the defense is going to be overwhelmed by the weapons that the Cowboys have. And coming off a bye week, I think it's just going to be that much scarier for the Packers.
Are the Cowboys coming off a bye week? Didn't
Let
they
me
just play the Bears?
No, they are coming off a bye week. Yep.
Okay, so who did
The
the
Bears
play
played the Dolphins last week.
Oh, the Dolphins. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Elliott took some reps in team drills Wednesday. He was a limited practice participant, but he said he'll need more reps this week to know if he can play Sunday at Green Bay. So Ezekiel Elliott, honestly, I know a lot of people, it's hard when you pay guys so much money, but I think the offense might be better with Tony Pollard playing.
Yeah.
But will Jerry Jones agree with that? You know how stubborn that guy is. So we will see. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference to me. Like the Cowboys are the better team, right? It's just, I really think the Packers are due for a win. Maybe this is a game that is kind of, it's just historically this game will be close. And we have seen that in playoff games with the Des Bryant catch, right? And just so many amazing moments with Green Bay and Dallas. And I may be a victim of the moment like the Colts and Patriots. But we'll find out. And our next game is going to be an NFC West showdown. Arizona Cardinals
Carolina
traveling to LA. Two teams that have totally underperformed. The division is kind of getting away from them at this point, which some people predicted. I won't say who for the Rams, but the Rams playing at
wink,
home.
wink.
The Rams are playing at home. Kyler Murray. I don't know what to make of this game. I'm going to be totally honest. I know this is a show where we are supposed to have an answer for everything. These are two teams that I don't really know what to expect when they play each other. The Rams have no offensive line. The Cardinals have been finding ways to lose games. I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with the Rams. I don't feel good about it. I feel the same way I felt about that. What was that? That Colts Raiders. This is
the Colts Raiders game. Yeah, and I can see why you go with the home team, and I think Sean McVay with the Rams has beaten the Cardinals under Cliff Kingsbury, like since they started coaching together, since they started playing against each other. I think Sean McVay is undefeated.
Wow, really?
Yeah. But I will say the Rams look like hot garbage right now, dude.
Yep.
They look like hot garbage. You saw what Jalen Ramsey said after the loss against the Bucks, right? They got a big stop against the Bucks. Then the offense came out, had a 3-and-out, and they're like, all right, you guys got to go back up there again. And Jalen Ramsey was like, bruh, we can't be doing this. This can't be, what's going on with our offense. Like, our offense needs to step it up. And
wow, and that never happens.
Yeah, but look, so I don't want to touch on it now, but I will touch on it later once we go over one of our segments about Week 9. This offense is going through Cooper Kupp, and that's it. That is it. He has other weapons. He's not using them. Jared Goff, or not Jared Goff. Sorry, Matt Stafford. The running game is non-existent. The defense is on the field way too much, and they're just getting tired. I think the Cardinals, a little bit more of a balanced team, is going to come into LA, and Cliff Kingsbury is going to get his first one against Sean McVay.
Yeah.
And look, these two teams look dysfunctional right now. Kyler screaming at his coach, his wide receivers, Jalen Ramsey calling out the offense. It's just two dysfunctional teams with at least one Super Bowl winning coach and a decent coach on the Arizona sideline. I don't know, man. It's just this is going to be such a weird game, but it's also, I think Arizona comes in and finally beats McVay and the Rams. So I'm taking the Cardinals in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Cardinals too. I'm switching. I
love it. Love it.
I'm not switching because of you. I'm just I do think with Hopkins, like there's something that you can be a little excited about with Arizona's offense with Hopkins, and Zach Ertz is the number 3 tight end in NFL right now.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray's still able to make plays with his feet.
And you got Connor. Connor, what's the running back's name? Something Connor?
Yeah. Well, you got Eno.
No, not Eno Benjamin, because he was taking less snaps.
Oh,
last
James
week.
Conner.
James Conner. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, James Conner. Is James Conner? Is he? Does he play for the? This is hilarious.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, because
Okay.
he came back last week against the whatever team they played against.
That dude bounces around like popcorn.
He does. Man. He does. Yeah.
I was like, was he in Miami or Baltimore? You're like, he's in Arizona.
Who are we talking about?
The last thing I'll say is it's always easy to kind of lean one way when you know that there's one team that's kind of, let's say there's two teams evenly matched. I'm going to go with the team most desperate to get a win. Mm-hmm. That's what makes this game really difficult is you got two teams desperate for a win.
Yeah.
And two teams that you don't really believe in. I'm going to go with Arizona because of that offensive piece. Mm-hmm. It's hard to see a team win a Super Bowl and then go 3-6. But you can't just, you can't be a robot. We have to be able to unprogram ourselves from just, that doesn't look right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird, but this is the year we're in.
This is the reality.
This is the reality. The Rams could be 3-6 after Friday, just 10 weeks into the season from winning a Super Bowl, and it's hard to predict things like that week in and week out. So, but I haven't been picking the Rams a lot. If you noticed, I don't really.
You stuck to your guns from the preseason. You definitely stuck to your guns against these Rams.
Yeah. And that takes us into our Sunday night game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It just closed on me. Go ahead and let me know
I got
who
it.
That game is.
Yep, Sunday Night Football, Chargers at 49ers.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is actually like a good Sunday Night Football game just because, look, 49ers have so much talent and the Chargers have a lot of talent on their side too, but the Chargers are struggling right now. They are struggling to really are they going to be second in the West? Are they going to make the playoffs? I don't know, right? Because with the emergence of the Broncos offense, you never know now. I think I still have them going at least into a wild card, if not barely missing it. Like
the Chargers?
The Chargers, like they usually do.
All right.
But the 49ers at home with CMC, with the way their offense should be clicking and the way that oh my God, their coach Kyle Shanahan draws things up for these guys, and just how impressive CMC has been with this team in only 1 week. I think they got it at home, man. I don't really think the Chargers are going to come in and make some sort of statement win. I do think they take the loss, even after last week when they did. Did they end up taking the win? God, I'm so bad at this.
Well, they're 5-3.
So they did end up beating the Falcons. I
gotta shut the garage door real quick.
No worries.
The rain's starting to pick up.
Oh, it's all wet now inside the studio for Kyle.
It's literally a hurricane right now.
He is in Florida. I just don't think the Chargers, even after coming off a win against the Falcons, which was close, by the way, it was a field goal win, can come into the Bay Area, take one against such a talented team on both sides of the ball in the 49ers. I just don't think they can do it. I just, they're one of those teams that the Chargers are going to charger. Herbert is looking not great this year either. So he's kind of up and down. Another team that we looked at earlier in the preseason and being like, yeah, this is going to be a good team. The AFC West is going to be one of the best divisions in football. And so far it's kind of been not so great. So I'm taking the 49ers in this one. I don't know. You agree or disagree?
Man.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't want to be impulsive. It's funny because you just said like the Chargers, you talked about their disappointments and things like that. And it's just kind of like, hey man, they're 5-3 and they're in the playoffs if it started right now. I know what you mean, because it's hard to get some of these, like that performance against the Broncos they should have lost. And then, the beat down against the Jaguars, but, and then they lost to the Chiefs. So, I mean, the Chiefs, yeah, that's a really good team, and they played them really close. Everyone's due for one just total fuck up, right? And that's kind of that's what Jacksonville was, in my opinion.
Yeah, true.
And I think this game is actually really tough. I think the 49ers are kind of riding high right now, but they lost. They didn't lose last week, but the week before that, I forget who they lost to, but I don't think it was a team as good as the Chargers. And I'm going to look at it really quick. That was week 8. The 49ers, who did they play? Here it is. Oh, no, they played the Rams, so I'm thinking of week 7. So this was the first week that they got CMC, and he wasn't really into the offense. Oh, they got blown out by the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know we're not supposed to do this, but the Chargers did play the Chiefs a lot closer than the Chargers played the Chiefs a lot closer than the 49ers did, and the 49ers were at home. I'm going to take the Chargers as an underdog on the road, and God, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. And then, again, we've got the Bucks beating the Seahawks earlier that day. So might be a changeup in the NFC West, may or may not.
This
if the
is what's
49ers
so fun
lose
about this time of year.
It is. It really is. The halfway point is like really great because now you're starting to see the playoff picture a little bit more. And we talked about it on the last episode too. So yeah, it's starting to get a little more fun. We want to talk about a fun game. Monday Night Football. You have got the lowly Commanders visiting the powerhouse Philadelphia Eagles.
Let's go, Commanders.
I was going to say, I don't think there's much to say here. I just think the Eagles are undefeated at home, and you said it yourself, and I'm starting to become a believer. Games like this, supposed trap games, they're not going to lose these games. They're going to win these games outright, and until a team that is much better than the Eagles comes in and gives them a fight, they're going to remain undefeated until then. So I've got the Eagles winning this one at home. I don't think it should be a question, but Kyle, who do you got?
I got the Eagles.
Oh, thank God.
Now, I don't like okay, we talked about Heineke, right? The spark he brought.
Yeah.
And they have won 2 of their last 3 games. They beat the Colts, they beat the Packers, and then they only lost by 3 to the Vikings on Sunday. That was a very close game. They had a chance to beat the Vikings. So I wouldn't throw this into the Commanders just for so long. This is the programming of the mind, right? The Commanders have been like the Texans and the Colts and the Raiders, like that type of team this year. Those like bottom feeders. I'm not sure if the Commanders are necessarily a bottom feeder. I think that the Commanders are kind of like, what's a good example? The Falcons, right? They have the same record.
And that's about it.
They have the same record, and they have been playing like the Vikings game, right? They're playing people close. They're feisty. They beat the Packers.
Okay.
Before the Packers were on a losing skid. Nobody predicted that, right? We were like, okay,
True.
The Packers lost to the Jets. They were jet lagged from London. They're going to get back on track against the Commanders. And then Heineke was like, hold my beer. I do got Philly winning this game, but I don't necessarily think this is a blowout. I think they'll win the game by like maybe 10 points, which you could say that's a blowout, but there's blowouts and then there's blowouts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I do have the Eagles winning this game, but the other component is that it's a division rival game, and the Eagles are the hunted. There's a giant target on their chest, and everybody is looking to be the first one to put a dart on it. And that is a dangerous place to be. It's much easier to be a Commanders team playing with nothing to lose. And, hey, we'll go for it on fourth down. We'll call that fake punt. Let's do the onside kick. It's the same way Detroit played last year against the Rams and almost beat them. It's just they're the hunted, and I'm gonna go with the Eagles, but I do think around this time of year it's gonna get harder for the Eagles to remain undefeated. It's just the statistics of it's the nature of the game, right? You cannot. There's a reason only 2 teams have ever gone undefeated, and it's not because there hasn't been good teams in the past. It's nearly impossible to not lose a game in the NFL. This is not college football, Alabama. I do believe in Jalen Hurts, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit, but if you're a viewer and you're listening to this, I urge you to look at these Eagles games with that lens, that they're the hunted, and really observe how teams are playing them, because maybe one of these games they take a lot of chances and the ball bounces their way. That's usually how an undefeated team gets their first loss. The other team took a lot of chances and the ball bounced their way. That onside kick was recovered. That fake punt worked. And it's like, holy shit, the Commanders beat the Eagles. And then, it's their only loss for the season. But I'm going to go with the Eagles, but it's something to mention rather than just being like, the Eagles are better. There's nothing to talk about here.
Because there's always little things like that, like you're saying, right? There's always like, oh, the Commanders, they're just a shit team, and they're going to play loose, and their defense is going to try to show out against a really good team. Like you said, Eagles have a target on their back. So again, things that you shouldn't forget, especially this season. So those were our week 10 predictions. Let us know if you disagree, agree, and if you liked Kyle's Wizard of Oz game. I love that. That was amazing. The top like that. That was really funny.
Oh, and a lot of this is based on Chase Young potentially coming back, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just keep following that. It says that he practiced for the first time since the ACL tear a week ago. Obviously didn't play last week, but maybe he will be able to return for his first game. That would be a huge spark for that team.
Oh, 100%. And again, with a defense that has actually been doing really well, you add Chase Young and it's just even better. So, but all right, let's move on. Kyle, let's start it.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
This is one
top 5. What's up?
I would say this is one of my favorite segments because we're not going to give you the NFL version. We're going to give you the unique version. And I got to say, mine's changed a little bit. Do you want me to go 1, 1, 2, 2, or do you want me to go 1 through 5?
Let's go starting from 5. We'll each give our 5, and then we'll go up.
Okay. My number 5 team right now is the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you want me to break it down? Oh, okay. It's lagging a little bit. If you can hear me, the internet just probably because there's a hurricane outside, but
you're good. I got you. Yep. So my number 5 is the Ravens. What about number 4?
My number 4 team is the Ravens.
My number 4 team is the Chiefs.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Man, I'm excited to hear you break these down. We're going to do it at the end, right? All right. My number 3 team is the Chiefs.
My number 3, the Bills.
Wow. All right. my number 2 team is the Bills.
My number 2, Vikings.
Wow. My number one team, the Eagles.
My number one is the Eagles. So we literally agreed on one, and that was the top. And
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Because earlier in the year we agreed on all of them. So,
yeah, it was literally the same for like 2-3 weeks straight. And I'm just gonna say the Bills and the Chiefs are down there because the Chiefs, while they still managed to make those changes in the second half against the Titans, man, they looked rough in that first half. Patrick Holmes took over, had 400 yards in the air, but man, they looked rough against the Titans. The Bills losing against the Jets, and again, the Jets aren't like a bad team. They're not the Jets of old, but Josh Allen's hurt. He threw 2 picks. It just looks bad on them, right? Like to be the number one team, at least in my eyes, for the first half of the season, and then to lose against the Jets like that, on top of my wife trolling me, like it's just too much. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
and the Eagles and Vikings, like the Vikings, I have my the Kirk Cousins deal, like sure, but they're 7-1. The Eagles are undefeated. I don't think there's too much to say about that other than the Vikings are playing the teams they got to play, beating them, and man, they look really good doing it. They look like they're having a lot of fun doing it, and you really don't want to play against a team like that who's having fun beating you no matter what it is, even if it's by 3, if it's by 2 scores, whatever it is. And the Eagles undefeated, Philly's on top, they're doing really well, and the Ravens, let's not forget Lamar Jackson, let's not forget Mark Andrews. This team is good, and that's why they entered my top 5, and I had the Dolphins exiting the top 5 for me.
Okay, that's all fair. Those are all fair points. I had the Bills number 1 for a long time as a juggernaut, and they didn't just get knocked off because they lost to the Jets. Now, all these other teams, I have been in the lab for hours cooking up who they've played, their opponents' rankings on offense and defense, to kind of gauge how impressive the points they've put up is. Like, I've really dove deep into this. You can't even find these analytics online. I wish you could. It would have saved hours of time. But the Bills were the most impressive team because they were the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense, and they played tougher opponents. I don't even know if this has ever happened in our life. I'm being honest. Like, we've always had, Seattle's got the best defense. The Broncos had the best offense. Like, there's a yin and a yang, and we're excited to see how it matches up. How does the same team have the best offense and the best defense? And how do they ever lose, right? Well, this is why. This is why they moved from the juggernaut to number 2, is because they don't have a running game, and I have concerns about Josh Allen's health. They are using him, and this is the problem with a defensive-minded coach, is that he's willing to just – and, hey, Josh Allen's tough as hell, and you talked about that earlier. You have no doubt in his toughness and his ability to play Sunday, but I do think that eventually it kind of can wear a player down, and you don't want to be in this position at this time of the year. We're not even in the playoffs. He should be – totally healthy still. But the fact is they don't have a guy they can snap the ball and hand it to. Josh Allen's the leading rusher on this team. Like, let that sink in, man. The best offense in the NFL has a quarterback as their number 1 rusher, and this isn't Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So I only reason Bills moved, and I look, the loss against the Jets, whatever. I don't think the loss against Miami, I totally throw that one away personally, just because the Bills should have won that game. They owned the time of possession. They called an enormous amount of plays. They just made a couple mistakes in the red zone. Whatever. That didn't change my opinion on the Bills. The game against the Jets, I started seeing what it could look like if Josh Allen, if that weight just gets a little too heavy on his back. All right. So I look at this Eagles team, and I see all these different ways that they can win football games. And I see that there's not really one guy that is holding a huge weight. Their defensive line and offensive line, you could make an argument they're both the best in the NFL, which is insane. And then you add in the weapons that they have. A.J. Brown is having a career year. Tennessee's probably looking at that like, what were we thinking? And then you got Devontae Smith. And then Goodert has jumped into the elite tight end group, joining Kelsey and Andrews and Kittle. So I think this Eagles team is getting better, and Buffalo's digressing a little bit, to be honest. So that is why I made the switch. It doesn't take away how amazing the Bills have been, but the Eagles have bought into Jalen Hurts' one game at a time. The expectations were not anywhere near what Buffalo was, and I'll share a tweet later. But Kansas City, number 3, easy. Tyreek Hill goes out to Miami, and the Kansas City Chiefs have more large pass plays than they had with Tyreek last year. This is a team that, as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be either the first, second, or third best team in the NFL for the next decade. And I hate that, right? And you can understand that as a longtime Packer hater.
Absolutely.
And then number 4, I got the Ravens. I really think Roquan Smith being added to this Ravens team, it's a move that you do if you're in a window. I do think the Ravens are due for a Super Bowl run. They've had a very good quarterback in Lamar Jackson. He is an elite quarterback. I don't know why he's his own agent. It's just simple as that. He's his own agent. If he had any other agent, we wouldn't think about him in this light, because he would be playing on a $270 million contract, right? So this Ravens team, John Harbaugh, if I found out that they won the Super Bowl tomorrow out of a coma, I would be like, oh, okay, I can see it. This is a really good Ravens team, and they're due for a run. Totally got the injury bug last year. It looks like they've recovered from all of that, and there's nobody that they could play where you would not give them the benefit of the doubt, right? They were playing the Eagles tomorrow. You would say that's going to be a good game, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then I got Miami over the Vikings just because the Vikings I understand they got a lot of wins, but they're finding ways to win, but I like Miami's firepower, and I think that is going to, if they were playing against a Vikings team, for example, and that's why I swapped the Vikings. I do think Miami has more firepower than the Vikings do, and I like the Vikings. This isn't a knock on the Vikings. It's just I'm really impressed by the way Miami has been able to consistently put up enormous numbers, and the way they've gotten Tyreek Hill and Waddle involved. Now adding Bradley Chubb, that move right there tells you this whole team right now, they're thinking about winning a Super Bowl this year. This is not a 5-year plan. They're going after a Super Bowl right now, and teams that are aggressively grabbing players to help them compete for the Super Bowl, they should be in the top 5, in my opinion.
No, and I like all those reasons for sure. So just to go over again the top 5, Kyle, number 1, Eagles, followed by the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Dolphins.
Yep.
I've got Eagles, Vikings, Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens. Now let's do a fun top 5. Let me play it again.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5, top 5, top 5.
Do you like drunk?
I love to get drunk. We're gonna do our top 5 drunk foods. Here we go. Let's start off for number 5. I'll go first. I've got some good loaded fries, some good cheese. You put bacon on it. You put chives on it, everything. A good set of loaded fries while I'm hammered makes me look like an idiot, but I love them so good, so much. What do you got number 5?
At number 5, I have chips. Sometimes you're drinking a lot and you're too lazy to really put a meal in, right? And you just see that bag of Doritos and you squish the whole bag and start drinking it like a monster. You wake up with cheesy fingers. And in that moment, you remember that you violated a bag of Doritos last night, and the shame you have to go shower off. God. That's my number 5.
All right, number 4, I'm getting a big 12, 15 piece of some buffalo wings. Ooh. Barbecue, buffalo, it doesn't matter. Some ranch. you just get messy. You're already a hot mess. Why not make it even worse? Because you're gonna end up in the shower, in the bath, falling asleep anyway.
Oh
So
my god.
you'll wash it off there. A nice big plate of wings. Oh, dude, great.
I agree with that. I got actually this is my loaded fries. So
Oh,
just like you said, the bacon, but I like how jalapenos. I'm a spicy guy. Throw some jalapenos in there, maybe some like cream cheese, some sour cream. I mean, some sour
yeah.
cream. Just like kind of mix it all up and just like an animal, just stab your fork in there and shove it in the mouth.
Speaking of jalapenos and sour cream, I got nachos at number 3. Dude,
Oh,
I ask my wife, like, anytime we go to a new place, I immediately see the appetizers, and if they have nachos, I'm usually getting nachos. I don't have to be drunk, but when I'm drunk, they hit even better. You've
queso.
got with some queso, with some ground beef or some like chicken. You get the sour cream, the jalapenos, the guac. Oh my god, dude! It's just when I'm hammered and I see nachos, that's what I'm going to. I'm gravitating towards the nachos.
My favorite Mexican restaurant in town has chorizo queso.
Oh my
It
god!
is the best, and I've worked in restaurants that have won awards. Like this is the best queso I've ever tasted. It's addicting. It's a little pricey. Totally worth it. My number 3 is Taco Bell, and I
Oh,
wasn't.
nice.
Yeah, my
Nice.
number 3 is Taco Bell. I actually went through a season of my life where I would black out every night, and I was working at a bar in Miami. Figures I'm here right now,
Of
and
course.
I would have to take a cab home, and I would have to wait. And at 5 a.m., the Taco Bell line was wrapped all around the building. And I would just sit in that line looking at the taxi cab speedometer
Yeah.
go 17, 20, 22, 24. My Taco Bell would cost me $75 every single Friday night. And that's how
Oh my
addicted I was.
God.
My uncle
Oh
had
my
a
God.
full on, like, what do you do when your family sits you down to get you to stop?
Oh, an
Intervention. They had like an intervention with me, and it was like 1 week later, he came over and woke me up, and he's like, "You had Taco Bell last night," and I was like, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "Look at your fingers," and I had smothered burrito
Oh
all
my
over
god!
my fingers, and I
This man Kyle's a menace.
yeah. So Taco Bell number 3.
All right, my number 2 is just a fat, huge slice of greasy pizza. I need. Oh my god! There was times in college. I went to 1 year of college. I'm not a graduate. Just a heads up. But I went to 1 year of college, and every night after like a Friday or a Saturday night after drinking with the boys, we would go to this one spot where they would sell you, big old slices of pizza, dude. I was there hammered, standing outside, just I look like I do now with Bell's palsy, just hammered, drunk, just like trying to get the pizza slice in my mouth. Nothing hit better after a night of drinking in college. Just any big slice of pizza with some pepperoni on it, give it to me, put it in my mouth, call it a
Have you
night.
seen Along Came Polly where he's blobbing the grease out of the New York?
Yes.
He's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm blobbing the grease," and he's like, "Give it to me. It's the best part." And he starts squeezing his
He
pizza
squeezes it out.
onto his
Yeah.
pizza. God, that
I
makes
love that
me
movie.
My number 2 is like 10 McChickens and just
No.
annihilate them. Let me get 10 spicy McChickens and then a couple of McDoubles. Put them together. We call it a McGangbang. It's actually on the menu, and you just stuff your face, grab some of that buffalo sauce, put it on there, and just go ham on. And that's carb enough. That's what your body needs, honestly. That's
My number 1, hands down, the best drunk food. And if you're from Chicago, you know a place in the neighborhoods called Taco Burrito King, where the tacos are amazing. My buddies and I, coming out of high school, obviously underage drinking, would get hammered at somebody's house. Go to that Taco Burrito King and just get all the tacos. And this involves, don't get me wrong, Taco Bell, Taco Burrito King, anywhere that sells tacos, dude, that's my number 1. It's everything you need. You got your protein, you've got your wheats, you got your veggies, you got your dairy. dude, all that in a taco and it's easy to eat. 100% give it to me. That's my number one, tacos.
I thought you were going to make fun of me. I thought about putting tacos at number one, but I was like, he's going to be like, that's too much work. But I guess if someone else is making them,
Oh yeah.
that's why
yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll throw Taco Bell in there. My number one's pizza. There is nothing better than being hammered and then because you go, you know how it is. You go from not hungry at all to like disgustingly hungry in the
Yes.
snap, right?
Yep.
And then 5 minutes later, you realize there's a frozen pizza in the freezer, and you are so happy preheating
Mhm.
that oven. You're
Oh,
just
yeah.
standing there looking at the oven,
Just
waiting for
stomach
it to be
growling.
just holding your pizza, waiting
Oh,
for
God.
it to be preheated. Yeah, throw that in there, and then I mix some mayo with Texas Pete, and that's my
Woo.
dipping sauce. And
Woo.
yeah, throw one of those down, drink a Pedialyte, you're good to go.
I love it. So you had pizza number one. What was your number two?
My number two was McChickens.
Number three?
Number three was Taco Bell.
Number four?
Was the fries, loaded fries.
And then your number five?
Chips, Doritos.
Chips. I'm going to put these up on the Instagram. I had number one, tacos. Number two, pizza. Doesn't matter. Pepperoni, preferably. Number three was nachos. Number four was a big plate of wings. And number five was loaded fries. That was
Top five, no debating. Top five.
brought to you by Star 6 Media. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry.
I say next week we will debate on how we like our pizza. Now he's from Chicago, but that doesn't
No.
mean that he likes Chicago pizza best. Hint, hint.
That's
We'll
exactly
talk.
what it means. All right, moving on. Let's move on to our MVP picks this halfway through the season. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's getting their MVP picks out. Kyle, I want to start off with you. What is important about an MVP of the NFL? What makes an NFL MVP?
Okay, so I actually tweeted this yesterday when the NFL app actually put out the first votes. All right. Josh Allen's currently in first for MVP with 10 votes, and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are in second place, tied with 6 votes. I wrote, I get it. Allen was responsible for all of the Bills' offense. However, we expected greatness from the Bills. Plus 600 Super Bowl odds week 1. Philly was plus 2,000. Hurts is the most valuable player in the NFL. In my opinion, the MVP shouldn't be based on who's playing the best football. In addition to stats, are your teammates getting better? Have you created a culture of winning? What would be the biggest gap in win-loss differential had the team been without you? Hurts, undefeated, underrated. And what I mean is, if you were off that team, what would be the biggest gap in how many games your team has won, and what would have been your record without that player? You got an undefeated Philly team. What Jalen Hurts has done, it's just like what they've done for the fans and the way they believe. And you can't even put a price tag on the value that he's brought to the franchise. And that is literally what the most valuable player is all about.
And I absolutely tend to agree with this. I do put Jalen Hurts there, right? Because look at what Aaron Rodgers did last year, right? He was an MVP back to back, right? It was a back to back. And that was the offense. Now I will say, to Josh Allen's credit, the offense really does run through Josh Allen. Again, we mentioned the running game. We mentioned how important he is to this Bills offense in making it the number one offense in the NFL. He has a lot of help on the defense for sure. So it's not necessarily like, oh yeah, Josh Allen is definitely the MVP on the Bills because he has a lot of help. He's got Von Miller on the other side, right? What I will say, moving away from quarterbacks though, what Tyreek Hill has done on the Dolphins for Tua and literally already crossing the 1,000-yard mark halfway through the season is beyond impressive, he's set to break the record for receiving yards in a season. I forget who holds it, but you got to admit, man, like the way he gets open, and I just saw him against the Bears, what he does to get open, what he does to get those yards, how quick he is 100%, and he's been called this before, the cheat code. Not only cheetah, but the cheat code. I think he's super important to the Dolphins because without him, without them bringing him over, Jalen Waddle may not be having the season he's having. Tua may not be having the season he's having. So I think it's very important to not only look at the quarterbacks, but to also look at a wide receiver of Tyreek Hill's stature and be like, and not have the conversation of, should he be in the conversation, right? Like completely taking him out of the conversation would be disrespect. Is he an offensive player of the year? Yes, but I think he should be in the discussion for MVP as well. But Jalen Hurts, all credit to him. The whole one game at a time attitude, the mentality that you're talking about, what he's done in Philly after the year before when everybody was kind of writing him off, even though they still made the playoffs. Again, Jalen Hurts is definitely an MVP, but when you talk about a Tyreek Hill and how important he has been to this Dolphins team, you just can't, push him to the side.
No, I totally agree. The only reason I don't think he'll win MVP is because, and I said this, it's going to be a quarterback, and what Jalen Hurts has done, but he will win Offensive Player of the Year for sure. My brother is actually here. He actually has a journal degree in sports. I told him since I was traveling here that I would jump him in on this segment. Here you go, PJ. He's going to pull up a chair right here. So,
what's up, PJ? What's up?
So we just talked a little bit about it. I said Jalen Hurts. He said I could see the Jalen Hurts. He kind of agrees with it, but at the same side, he thinks Tyreek Hill should probably be considered for MVP. But what do you think?
I think he definitely should be considered, but in today's NFL, at this point, I feel like it's pretty well known that the MVP award is considered to be a quarterback award.
Yeah.
And as as much as I don't like that, it is what it is. Tyreek Hill, I genuinely think I fully agree with your statement earlier that I think he'll win Offensive Player of the Year. Like he's the only receiver that has over 1,000 yards this season already, and no other receiver even has scratched 900 yet.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got the lead by quite a margin.
Yeah, I'd imagine Diggs is probably number 2.
Yeah, no.
Maybe, I think Diggs is number 2.
And then even then, but the Dolphins have Tyreek at 1 and Jalen Waddle at 4. Their number 1 and number 2 receiver are both top 2 leaders in the receiving yards.
And that's kind of why I think it's insane.
Not very common. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. And I think that's kind of why it's insane that he has already eclipsed 1,000-yard mark. And again, like the Offensive Player of the Year, sure. And the other side, yes, this is 100% a QB award. But man, just the fact that he's already done that. And in today's NFL too, after I forget who holds the record. I don't know if who holds the record for receiving yards in a year. But it's like a Hall of Famer.
Johnson.
Oh, is it Calvin Johnson?
Because Cooper Kupp almost broke it last year, but he missed it by I think it was 30 yards. He barely missed it.
Okay.
But Calvin Johnson has the record. So right now,
Stephon Diggs, 857 yards receiving.
So yeah,
there you go.
Almost at 900.
Yeah, but that's the point. He's still 43 yards away from even scratching 900, and Tyreek Hill is already I think it was 60 something yards above 1,000 already.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's yak, and that he's a deep threat.
Oh, of course.
But what I do like, at least we're having the conversation because Megatron did what he was doing, right? He broke the record. But the way the wide receivers have been trending in these last few years, maybe you start having that conversation because the wide receivers are being so valuable in the NFL nowadays, where you're spending a number 1 pick on the wide receivers, every draft. So when they're becoming this valuable to an NFL offense, then absolutely that conversation should start getting the wide receiver position should start being in the conversation for MVP.
Yeah, and that was the whole argument last year about Cooper Kupp getting MVP. Yeah. And even Jonathan Taylor was in that conversation last year. Those two, and the reason why it wasn't them, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback. It's a trump card at this point. If you're a quarterback and you have even a semi decent year, and you just have a low interception to TD rate, and your QB rating is higher than most in the league, and you have over, let's say, 4,800 yards and over 40 touchdowns, you're winning MVP.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And
that's
I mean,
almost a guarantee at this point.
and we saw it like when you got guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen and all this like new age, quarterbacks coming in and immediately making a difference. It's like, oh yeah, no shit. Of course they're going to win MVP because they are having this success so early. And because every NFL team focuses on a quarterback of the future. They need
Absolutely,
that franchise quarterback.
Absolutely.
And me and Kyle have talked about it before. A really good quarterback, a Tom Brady, an Aaron Rodgers, a Josh Allen makes the rest of the talent around him so much better. So it's always, I think we're playing that game right now where it's like, okay, the QB gets the MVP, but now it's like, does the wide receiver make the QB the MVP, or does the QB make the wide receiver offensive player of the year? Because this is
look at it this way too. Like, think about it this way. Look at Rodgers last year and the year before. He won back-to-back MVPs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, what's the deciding factor now? This year, he doesn't have Devontae.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's
now it's like, whoa.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible football.
Yeah.
Last week, he threw 3 interceptions in the red zone. All his fault. Terrible throws. Yep. One of them, mind you, hitting the face mask of a defensive lineman. Like, it was a terrible throw. He was playing awful. Against the Lions, mind you, of all teams.
And it was looking like Romeo Doubs was about to come like emerge as the number one. But obviously that didn't happen. He's a rookie. So, but yeah, now it's like, okay, maybe it is the wide receivers who are actually the talent and getting open. Absolutely. You see Tyreek Hill getting open all the time, but I agree. The MVP is going to be a QB award for probably a little while longer. Until
a little over a decade, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. And then the wide receivers are going to be like, man, look at all these wide receivers. These guys are studs. Maybe they should be in the MVP consideration.
Yeah, and as long as you can make the argument that the quarterback touches the football on every single snap, and they're the only player that does that, there's going to be, not much you can say about that. Yeah, the quarterback does have the biggest ability to change a game. More than a receiver, right? You can take a receiver out with a really good cornerback, a shutdown corner, but a really good quarterback, you can't shut that down. So I still think that the award does belong to elite quarterbacks, and I hear what you're saying, and I don't think that, like last year, right, with like Aaron Rodgers, it wasn't like he did something that was so incredible that I did feel like Cooper Kupp was snubbed. But Absolutely. That I do believe that was an exception, and I do think for the majority of the years it should go to a quarterback just based on the fact of the impact that they have in the game and on the team.
They're the leaders, man. At the end of the day, they're the ones who get shit on for a loss or get praised for a win. Even if it's like the running back, even if it's the defense that wins it, it is 100% on the quarterback at all times. So I can see why this is definitely the MVP is a quarterback award 100 out of 100 times.
Oh, all day. And just, I don't know, just like I said earlier, it's just tying back to how Rodgers has won the MVP over the last 2 years. You've had Devontae being the top receiver in the league. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's been him over the last 2 years, like outside of this season, it's been Devontae, D-Hop if he's healthy and not suspended, of course, and Diggs. It's been those 3 guys. You know what I mean? And Hill.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those 4 guys have been dominating the league over the last 2-3 years.
Yep. 100% agree with that. That's why I think the wide receiver is going to get in this conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. All right, I'm going to head out, though. It was great.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Great podcast. Y'all,
thank you.
Subscribe, listen to these guys. They know what they're talking about.
Thanks, dude.
Right, thanks, man. See ya.
Have a good night.
All right,
so that was Rican in him. He's getting mad.
Oh, I love it. All right, so those. So really, at the end of the day, I think we're both on the Jalen Hurts train for MVP, just because of what he's done to this Philadelphia's team. Is that pretty good?
That's a fair assessment. Yeah.
But I think if the Bills win the AFC East, and even though this is a regular season award, I still think they give it to Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think they're going to. This is a whole. I'll do really quick. So I do think that they give it to the player. It's almost like an Oscar, right? It's like they gave Leonardo DiCaprio one for a movie that wasn't even that great compared to his other stuff. But they were like, oh, but he deserved it. He's next in line, right? Jalen Hurts is the new one, and Josh Allen hasn't got one yet. So if you're going to do it in line like that, Josh Allen gets it first, and Jalen can get one next year if he plays good. And I don't think it's not supposed to be a popularity contest or about any of this stuff. But unfortunately, that's not what this award is. It hasn't been like that for a long time. So I do think Josh Allen's going to win it, but like, this is our opinion, right? We're not really predicting what we think will happen. We're predicting what we think should happen.
Absolutely. And with that, that's the MVP. Obviously, we're in the middle of the season, so this is definitely a conversation. And obviously, there's going to be Defensive Player of the Year, Rookies of the Year, all that stuff. But let's move on to what we learned from Week 9, because there was a lot of things that happened that, you heard our top 5 that really shook that stuff up and really makes, I don't know, just the NFL as a whole look different. So, Kyle, I'm going to start real quick. And we talked about this team, the Rams. That whole fuck them picks mentality is really starting to bite them in the ass, because with Matthew Stafford, possible in concussion protocol, their backups are John Wolford and Bryce Perkins. They gave up all those picks for players to win now, and they won the Super Bowl last year. So credit to them. They did it. But man, it's going to start to bite them in the ass here pretty soon, because even their GM over the trade deadline was still trying to do that. And they have Cooper Kupp. They have Allen Robinson, which he just hasn't been utilized. So they've got some offensive weapons, but the future does not look bright for the Rams. And their dependency, at least Matthew Stafford's dependency to move the offense through Cooper Kupp, is really what's kind of handicapping the team, because Cooper Kupp is very, very dynamic, a very dynamic wide receiver. But we looked last week against the Bucs. They had a 3 and out, and they left 44 seconds on the clock for the Bucs, for Tom Brady and the Bucs. And who spoke out about this? It was Jalen Ramsey, one of the leaders on the team. And I think we talked last episode about how I love seeing Jalen Ramsey get pissed, just because he does have like an attitude problem, I think. Yeah. But he's also a leader on this defense. He's someone who is an elite cornerback. He is someone who can say something like that and shouldn't expect any sort of reprimandation or something like that. He is right. He is right in the sense that, hey, why did we just get a big stop? You guys got a 3 and out, and we're expected to come back and get a big stop. So I think the Rams, this whole mentality of like, fuck them picks, going through just Cooper Kupp and expecting the defense to hold up its end week in, week out, is going to be rough for the Rams to move on.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with that part. That small part where you said, like, and he's right. Look, there's been no team that has more right to talk bad about the offense than the Broncos defense. And what do I see week in and week out? They are literally given opportunities from the media, literal just softballs. Like, does it frustrate you when your team goes out there, you get a 3 and out, and they can't get anything going? And they're like, look, they've never, ever bashed the team, because there's a togetherness where you realize that the world, the media, everyone is trying to divide. That is the mission. The mission is to divide, because it's a story, it's a headline, it's clicks, it's money. They're always trying to divide. But when you're in a locker room and you understand what they're trying to do, and you are a brotherhood, you just don't do it. Even if you think it, I know that they think it. I know Justin Simmons is like, no shit. Yeah, it sucks. But he doesn't say it, because that's not what teams, like good teammates, do, right?
But here's the thing. What are the major differences between the two teams? Who is your leader on defense right now?
Justin Simmons. Patrick
Justin
Surtain
Simmons
kind of stepping up.
Patrick Surtain's second year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Patrick Surtain is our best player on defense, but Justin
Mhm.
Simmons is our leader, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does make sense. But look at the differences between the Broncos and the Rams. The Rams just won a Super Bowl last year with Matthew Stafford. The Broncos have first year quarterback on the Broncos quarterback, Russ Wilson. You guys have Justin Simmons as your defensive leader, and your best player on the defense is a second year corner. Jalen Ramsey is an elite cornerback. He is 100% able to say this because of that, because he has that time, and because they just came off a Super Bowl run.
I only disagree with that because Jalen Ramsey has a track record of being a bad teammate when he's not winning.
Okay, you
yeah.
can't really. That's history, so you can't really go
Yeah.
against that. But I will say the differences. Those are the differences for me. What was one thing you learned from Week 9?
Oh, it's like, you think that's the thing that's going to get the spark? You think the offense doesn't know that they suck? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
be careful with your words because if you're not going to help the situation, you're just making it worse. That's my opinion. It's like,
Okay.
These are professional athletes. They know that they got to play better on offense. It's not the press conference with Jalen Ramsey that everyone's like, oh shit, we suck. We should get better. But I do get your point. My number 2 is that the Packers will not turn the season around. They have too many holes and too many problems. And
Hell yeah. I love it.
I'm actually visiting my dad right now, big Packer fan. He keeps coming out here stoned out of his mind trying to show me his gummy bears. Like
Looking at my hat like, what the hell is this guy doing right now?
he like just discovered weed and he's 50.
Hey, good for him. Good for him.
I know. I'm happy for him. I don't think the Packers will turn the season around, and he's a diehard fan, and he even said they'll be lucky to finish 500. And when your heart and soul's in it, and you can still see that, there's some truth to it. This is not. You have nothing to go off of to think the Packers can turn it around. I do think they'll win a couple games, but I just don't see them doing that massive turnaround that we expected when they were on the 2-game losing slide. Even the 3-game losing slide, you just still expected them to find a way. And they just can't, man. They just can't. It's sad, but their defense isn't performing very well. They're middle of the pack, not terrible, but they're nothing. They're not going to save this offense, is what I mean.
No, and look, I'm a huge Packers hater. Obviously, I'm a Bears fan. That's the give and take there between the rivalry. But what did I say before the season started? I was like, man, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to do his Aaron Rodgers thing, his back-to-back MVP thing, and they're going to win the division. They are nowhere near that. The Packers halfway through the season have not looked like a team, like you said, that is going to make it a second half turnaround. There's no way. There's literally no way. Like your dad said, maybe 500 if they're lucky. So I agree with it.
If they're lucky, yeah.
Yeah, but there was like even me as a Bears fan, I was still like this first half of the season, and I was like, oh, never mind. They're not gonna do it. And
yeah,
it is what it is.
We were all kind of like that, I felt the same way about the Raiders until now.
Exactly.
That's a great comparison, and I hate the Raiders, so we're in alignment there with.
Yeah, we're good. We're good on that one. The next thing for me was the Seahawks. I had them losing this week against the Bucs at Tampa Bay, but dude, the Seahawks are legit. Geno is legit this year. Pete Carroll is a definitive Coach of the Year candidate. And Kenneth Walker III is a star running back in the making. They lead the NFC West right now. Will they have a struggle against the 49ers? Yes, I think that's the only team there that are those are going to be the top 2 teams in the NFC West. They're good, man. They're good. Geno Smith has like the best completion percentage among quarterbacks, I think, this year. Mm-hmm. And Kenneth Walker, again, just a star running back. And what Pete Carroll has done, and he took that dig at Russell Wilson with the whole armband thing. It's just insane what he's been doing with the talent that he has, especially after Carson in the preseason had to retire because of neck surgery or a neck injury, whatever it was. So what he's been able to do, scrapping up, and that's kind of why they stayed quiet at the deadline too, because they're like, hey, we're going to go out with our team because we've been doing really well with our team so far. So I think the Seahawks are legit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll just say he's throwing a very wide receiver friendly football. You just see the placement of the football, and you can see why his QBR is as high as it is. Obviously, with the Russell Wilson trade, I'm not a huge fan of their success, and Super Bowl 48 will always be lingering in my mind. But I guess you got to give credit where it's due. So I could see that one, but I still need to see more. It's one of those teams that's doing everything that they need to be doing, but it's just I need a little bit more. And I'm going to get to that because there's another team I feel that way about. And this is just me, but I said the Jets tricked the world again. And I do believe that this Jets team right now, if you're holding stock, sell high, because I know that they beat the Bills. I didn't think the Bills had their best performance. I respect the fact that they can play defense. Sauce Gardner's turned into an elite cornerback. He's a little handsy. I'm still not over that.
Hey, come here. Let me give you a hug.
Yeah, a little handsy with the PI. He's aggressive, but look, the Jets are playing really great defense and they're running the football. But when we're talking about these top fives and we're talking about people in Super Bowl windows right now, I'm just not seeing enough from Zach Wilson to think that he could go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen in an AFC championship game, or even the Miami Dolphins at this point. And those are two teams in his own division that they're going to have to deal with to even make it to the playoffs. This AFC is loaded compared to the NFC this year. So I do have the Jets actually not making the postseason as well as their record is. I know that statistically they have like a 65% chance or something at this point, but I think that'll slightly start going down. And I haven't even looked at their schedule. I just don't believe in this team yet. I've seen a lot of games with them, full games, and it just seems like teams that they're playing aren't capitalizing on their opportunities to beat them. And that's what kind of is bothering me about their wins. They're just not like beating the brakes off of anybody because of sheer talent. So that is my thing that I learned in week 10. And then you got one more.
No, let's just finish it off there. I just wanted to say on the Jets part, I agree with you because I thought you were going the other route. You're like, I think the Jets are for real. So I'm kind of glad. No. Yeah. I'm kind of glad you went the route that I was hoping to go. Because
sorry, Natalie.
The Jets have won games where Zach Wilson has been bad, and it's really just the defense that they've been relying on. And we've said it before: if you want to win these games in the NFL, it's the offense that really has to click. So Zach Wilson has not looked like the quarterback that they were expecting last year, or the franchise quarterback. But Salah has done a really good job on that defense and a team as a whole. They've won these games by little points, by just getting the right things to happen here and there throughout the game. So I don't believe in the Jets either. Did they beat the Bills? Sure. And that looks bad on the Bills, but it doesn't look great on the Jets by winning the way they won. So
exactly. Stand by for more Jets.
Yeah. All right. So that was what we learned in week 9. Let's move on to our final segment, panic or relax. Kyle, do you want to start off or you want me to start off?
You can start it off.
All right. My first one, and we just talked about it, the Bills. Panic or relax. Now, I know. Yep, exactly. It is 100% a relax. But I think the question should still be asked because they lost to the Jets, and Josh Allen right now is kind of day-to-day with that elbow injury. So it is a question, I think, to be asked. And I think Bills fans are a little bit like, what's going on, right? Like they can still count on the defense. They can still count on Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox now because kind of emerged as an offensive threat for the Bills. And Singletary has shown that he can rush the ball effectively. So I think it's still relaxed, but, with the 2 interceptions and Josh Allen's injury and the offense really running through Josh Allen, I still think it was a solid question, but you have him at relax as well.
Yeah, I have him at relax. You're going to lose a couple games, and especially, I think it would be more concerning if the Bills lost the game where Josh Allen had a great game and they just got outdueled, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense that in a game that it seemed like the Bills weren't playing their best football, they lost. But we know what their ceiling is. The expectations are Super Bowl or bust. And until they, have a larger sample size of not winning game, was there 2 losses are like 7 weeks apart, so
Yeah.
I there's no reason to panic. You lost to a Jets team, get the chalk off your pants and get back to football, because I think that they don't have time to linger on this. They got Minnesota coming in this week, and the Minnesota team is a really tough team. So I think if they really want to right the ship, just to even get this question out of people's mouths, you just beat Minnesota, and Buffalo probably goes back to number 1 in the power rankings.
I like it. Next one that I had was the Bucks, actually. So panic or relax on the Bucks, leading the NFC South, but with a 4-5 record. We talked about it earlier when we were going through the matchups. Tom Brady is a scary guy. No matter what record, no matter what stats he's got going on, you don't want to go against Tom Brady when he wants something as bad as winning. But the Falcons have shown, to everyone's surprise, I think, that they can win games and they have a possibility to get this NFC South. So should the Bucks panic or relax at this point in the season, halfway through?
I wish there was a middle answer, because I don't think that they should panic because they're in such a weak division right now. But I definitely think this team's in no condition to relax. And it's a lot harder to say that they should panic after winning. So they got the win against the Rams, but they still are trying to climb their way back to 500, and they find themselves in a must-win this Sunday. So I'm not going to say that they need a full-fledged panic just because of how soft that division is.
Yeah.
I mean, who are you worried about in that division? The Saints. The Saints
Panthers
just lost some key offensive linemen. Andy Dalton, he was pretty solid when they had a good O-line, but he's not, there's a reason Andy Dalton was a star quarterback 10 years ago, and now he's not. It's because great quarterbacks have evolved. You have to be Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. You have to have some spice. You can't just be a pocket, boring quarterback anymore. And that's all Andy Dalton is. He's nothing to worry about. And Jameis Winston, interception machine. The Bucks could just slide into the play. They'll make it to the playoffs with Tom Brady, but they're not going to have a great record. They might have the worst record in the people in the playoffs, if that makes sense, right? Because they have to go if they win their division. But it's just like all those years the Giants made it at 7-9. I think it'll be something similar to that.
All right. Did you have one, or did you want me to go with the last one I had?
No, go with the last one you had. I was just going to go after yours.
Okay. So the last one I have is, again, we talked about it, the Rams. Jalen Ramsey, again, was vocal about the offense not getting it done against the loss against the Bucks. And you talked about it. Is it going to inspire them, or is it not? And should they panic or relax? Because for me, this is a panic team right now where, again, I don't want to beat the same old drum, but the offense is Cooper Kupp, and that's it. And then the defense is struggling because they're on the field a majority of the time because this offense can't get it going. So are you thinking panic or relax for the Rams?
I think panic since week 4. I mean, this is like the house is burning down. And, I don't know how they could salvage it. I really don't. With Seattle being a surprising, and then we just talked about them, and the 49ers acquiring CMC, big Sunday night game against the Chargers. I guess if you're a Rams fan, your only hope going forward is that the Chargers find a way to win and the Seahawks lose, and maybe they can squeak out a win on that divisional game against Arizona this week. But the Rams should be in complete panic mode because they're risking not even making the playoffs as a wild card team. I mean, you could forget about winning your division at this point. You're probably not even making it in as a wild card. And that's a really far place to jump from winning a Super Bowl. But like we said, some of us predicted it, some of us didn't. I think Von Miller was a little more important to that team than they realized. They didn't want to let him walk. But it's the same thing. I don't know, like, if they got a little cocky. You can't let Von Miller leave, and you also Odell Beckham stays in that game. He might have been the Super Bowl MVP, and why does he? He gets hurt on the job, and he doesn't get to recover and rehab on the job. I don't see Odell signing back. I just really think that Rams thing is a fluke, and I've already personally turned the page from that. I think if you are a Rams fan or you're in that organization, yeah, you should have been panicking for a couple weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny because during our preseason episodes, right, I was like, yeah, the Rams probably going to win the division and the Bengals not going to win the division and they're going to be a lot worse. Have the Bengals regressed a little bit since the Super Bowl? I mean, sure, they still have a winning record, but man, was I wrong on the Rams. And again, a lot of people were. So it was
there
just
were a
one
lot
those
of people
things.
Super Bowl favorite.
Exactly. For the second year in a row, 100%. All right. Well, that was Only Football episode, I think 37 for week 10 predictions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. 2 hours of straight only football and some drunk food included. Kyle, where can they find you on Twitter to follow you and your crazy tweets?
Yeah, you can find me at Football Only Podcast, FTBL ONLY Podcast. And yeah, for a lot of retweets, memes, cringe Russell Wilson, whatever. Rick got me into it, and I'm getting pretty good at it.
He's getting all right.
Random people are arguing with me, so I must be doing something right.
Oh, that's when you know you're doing Twitter correctly. You could follow me at And Now Rick on Twitter, and you could follow us at Star 6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. Follow us on everything. Check out our live streams. Not only this show, Only Football, but we have 6 other ones and a brand new coming out on Friday called Slot Shot Hockey Podcast with my Big League Chicago co-host, Jack. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun second half of the NFL season, Kyle. I'm excited for it. And it's good to see a lot of different teams in this playoff race right now.
Yeah, a lot of different teams kind of climbing in, and then some teams probably cementing coming up into the next 3 weeks. If you got those 2 lost teams win the next 3 games in a row, the playoff chances go up 20%. So these are going to be crucial next couple of weeks for a lot of teams.
It's going to be insane. But all right, man, as always, a pleasure. Have fun in Florida. Try not to sweat your balls off and have fun, dude.
All right. I'll let you know how the hurricane goes.
Sounds good. See ya.
See ya.